Hi guys! So when we think of rentals, the first thing that comes to our mind is having a second home and letting it out on a long-term rental to a steady tenant. The newer models have been running an Airbnb and earning that extra cash flow. This is what I usually talk about on my channel as I run an Airbnb in Goa. But recently, I traveled to Singapore and met a really interesting person who is not renting out residential houses nor is running an Airbnb. She is renting out commercial spaces. Yes, I mean industries and factories. Now, this is something which is not completely unheard of. Commercial rentals are done everywhere. But the way she is doing it completely changed the way I look at rentals. It gave me a deep insight about how these different type of rentals work, plus how the geographical location of your property can actually affect the rental yield you'll get from your property. So in this video, I'll share what I learned from her. I'll share our conversations, how this business works, how she's doing it, and if it's something that I would like to try on later in life.
Hi, this is Arcadia. So we met through a community. So I was going to attend a conference in Singapore and we met through a community where we started talking about our shared interests, how I run Airbnbs in India, and I got to know that she runs a commercial rental in Singapore. So that kind of piqued our interest. We started conversing with each other, we started exchanging thoughts, and we found that we share a lot of common interests. So I thought that why not delve into it deeper and share what we are discussing on a video to the audience because it will be beneficial for all. So that led to the conception of this video and here we are. So Arcadia, can you just give a little bit of info about yourself, what you do, and we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, so my name is Arcadia. I'm not gonna tell you how long ago I graduated, but like in general, I actually run like one or two commercial property rentals in Singapore. So like kind of like an independent landlord. So we own our own industrial properties. Yeah, and also like now I'm currently venturing more into the RWA space. So I'm doing like a startup on like tokenizing our properties and also our portfolio.
Right, that's great. That's so super interesting. So just a little bit of context. So Singapore is very good or not good?
Not very big,
Not very
kind of small. So.
No, not from that aspect.
Like we're really big when it comes to what?
Crypto, yeah.
Crypto. Oh yeah, so Singapore has like a very strong crypto adoption rate.
Yeah,
We are generally more tech savvy.
right. So Singapore has a really good environment for new age tech and it has a good environment for the RWA space and that's what's being picking up. So she's exploring that area. But we'll keep this video limited to the Web2 space.
Okay, so Arcadia is a Singaporean who runs commercial rentals. And now she's building a startup that connects real estate with blockchain technology. But before getting into that part, I wanted to understand more how she's working in the traditional real estate rental space.
So we'll just talk about the commercial rentals that you're running. So just a little bit of idea that how did you get to the space and how does it work in here? Like how are your numbers like? How is your investment like? How do you secure a property, upfront costs? Just a little bit of.
So actually, in terms of like how I actually started out to buy an industrial property, it was more of like a kind of like a family decision. So apparently, I was the one who had the most amount of time on their hands at that point of time, and then I then started out, going into like managing the property, learning about it, so the day-to-day details and all that. Yeah.
So you got the property how?
Like, okay, classically, we actually searched for a number of undervalued properties and then like, we shortlisted it to one or two and then after we invested together with the syndicate, yeah.
Oh, that's
So it's like a bunch of units together and go that
Wow,
this unit that we know.
Okay, that's so interesting.
Now, what I was really fascinated from her story was how she didn't plan out everything before she got into the property rental space. She inherited a complex property situation and then learned everything on the go herself. Tenant management, maintenance, regulations, the works, everything from the scratch. Now, this is what even I did. When I started my business, I did not know anything prior to that. So I also had to learn everything by myself on the go while running my business. I did not know the hospitality industry. I did not know how short-term rental even works, how to get bookings, how to market it. So it kind of felt very relatable and also doable, that this kind of business can be learned. And this is what I grasped from her story as well. The point was to stay proactive and improvise as you go. Now, talking about the commercial rental space in Singapore, it differs significantly in terms of ownership and access, market dynamics, and regulations. First of all, owning a property in Singapore is open to all. But the catch here is that if foreigners want to buy a property in Singapore, they have to pay an additional 60% ABST. Now, the loop here or the workaround here is that many foreigners, they start a local company or they do a joint venture to avoid paying these additional costs. If you compare it to India, in India, there is no such restriction. There is no additional tax to be paid by foreigners, but foreign companies may face some restrictions when it comes to commercial spaces. Now, the Singapore market is highly regulated and formalized owing to the shortage of land and space there. Every commercial zone, whether it's office, industrial, retail, or mixed use, has defined land use permissions set by the URA. Whereas in India, the market is fragmented but flexible. Zoning, it does exist, but enforcement, that varies. Many landlords, they repurpose residential or semi-commercial spaces for rent. Now, there are some common segments which are overlapping in both the markets. For instance, at both the places, rental is done to office spaces, to industries, or co-working setups. A big difference though lies in the subletting rule. Now, I sublet in India, which is that I have taken the property on lease from the owner and then I further lease it out to my guests in the short-term market. This, however, is not really allowed in Singapore, as Arcadia pointed out.
We don't rent like sublet in a sense. Because there's a certain rule over here that actually prevents you from doing that. I think it was about like 65 to 70% of the space must be for your own use to rent.
So for the owners, 65 to 70% has to be for their own use.
Your own use if you are the tenant. You are not allowed to subcontract.
Okay, got it.
It's different from co-working spaces.
Right.
It's a different kind of regulation.
Okay, right. So you can't really do a rental here. Unless you can
Come to
sublet.
in.
Okay, got it.
So in Singapore, you can't really just rent a space and then sublet it to someone else. In most of the cases, the majority of the space has to be occupied by the main tenant themselves. So I have made this table here where you can look at the main differences and understand them by yourself for your own perusal. But all in all, the bottom line is that in Singapore, if you want to do commercial rentals, you either have to own the property outright by yourself or have a proper company structure with all the right approvals to carry out your venture. Yes, it is compliance heavy, but that is what keeps the market stable and professional. Now comes the interesting part. How much does she make while doing this business?
Okay, so we would just like to get a better understanding like what are the yields in Singapore like and what's like the numbers that you're making roughly by running these rentals and what kind of modes also you adopt there. So then we can understand the landscape a little bit better.
So actually for a lot of people, when they think of like use and they think about rental, the first thing they actually think of is like residential use. So that's probably like about 3 to 5%.
Okay.
Or even up to 8% if you want like a very exclusive location or just like a very heavy tenant at the moment.
That's for residential, sorry.
Yeah, that's more for residential.
Okay.
For industrial, actually varies quite largely. So it actually depends on like the type of industrial unit that you own. So are you using it for like factory usage?
Okay.
Is it an office? Is it like a mixed use? What is it about? So that's a good difference between like I think I've seen 3%, 5 and 11. So up we are doing something slightly above average. I'm not
So around like 12.
So less than 12. So like between 3 to 11, I think we're doing about like 5 to 6. I think pretty good at this point.
Okay.
That's like
good for 6%.
Yeah, like because in a sense, right, because our land price is high and also our asset price is high. So if you actually prefer a certain degree of like stability,
Right.
So the main thing that makes the property here more expensive is actually the stability.
Right. Makes sense.
Now, residential rentals in Singapore typically earn anywhere between 4 to 5%. But commercial rentals in Singapore, they have a better higher yield. It lies anywhere between 5 to 10%. That's what has been told to me. A similar game also plays out in India. However, the numbers vary and some factors can be favorable or unfavorable. For instance, the rental yield, especially the commercial rental yield in India, in tier 1 cities especially, can be much higher. And even the house prices, the property prices, they go up steeply during the up movement of the rental estate. But this growth is not uniform across the country. You need to be strategic where you are owning the property to get this kind of yield, to get this kind of appreciation. On the other hand, the market in Singapore is stable with minimal price crashes. There are long lease cycles, transparent contracts, and predictable rental demands in Singapore. In India, however, it is highly cyclical with a number of highs and lows. When we talk about liquidity also, in Singapore, you can go and sell your property anytime you want. But in India, the due diligence that is required is really high, which can also come with disputes on many occasions. Okay, so after all this discussion, the space does feel exciting to me. But before we jump right in, we need to know the pros and cons, and that is what Arcadia tells me now.
Pros so like generally the pros of industrial estate in Singapore is it's quite overlooked. There is healthy demand and generally you should continue to stay that way, I think. Yeah, and in terms of like residential development, right, because we have this ABS, so technically it will become very expensive for the more if you buy more residential properties in comparison to like buying an industrial property which doesn't have the same ABS rules.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay.
And there was like the con, right?
The con.
No, there was the pro.
Yeah.
There was the con.
One pro, one con, you said.
Yeah, one con. So for the con would actually be more towards like during certain periods, like for example, if you experience a very huge like shutdown or you have like industrial like I don't know what do you call industrial revolution. Okay, that's a little bit deep, but let's go with that. Yeah.
Some
Industrial revolution,
Yeah.
corruption, things like that.
Right.
You will find it difficult to find tenants, and there's quite a number of people who want to like lowball rent.
Right.
But other than that, if you are talking about a general landscape, as long as you stay quite stable, you're
Right.
fine.
The upside is that the demand in Singapore's industrial estate is really high. And also, if you're not a foreigner or if you have built a company there, there's no additional stamp duty that you have to pay to start commercial rental there. But like with everything, the market is not perfect. Vacancies can be long and expensive. Plus, you need to understand the legal framework properly before you start in it. The returns also, it depends a lot on the market timing and the type of tenant that you're attracting. Now, Arcadia told me something really simple but quite powerful, which has stuck with me. Learn the rules before you chase the yields.
Anything else you would like to add, or anything like for people who are looking to probably explore this landscape and whatever has it learning been on this journey, something that they should be wary about or something that they should be excited about?
We to learn a bit more about like the legal aspects and like understand the trade-off between like I would say increasing prices versus like so it's a question of which do you want. Do you want high yield or because these two things come together, or do you want like more straightforward yield but then it comes at a higher price? So
Right, makes sense. That's very true, very true.
So, what I took away from this conversation goes beyond just rentals. It's about understanding that different markets require completely different playbooks, whether it is Airbnb market or industrial rentals. What works in India may or may not work in Singapore, may or may not work in Japan, may or may not work in USA. All markets have their own unique factors. But what Singapore's system did teach me was that sometimes the best opportunities aren't about maximizing short-term cash flow, they are about building long-term stable wealth. Running Airbnbs taught me about active income generation. Talking to Arcadia reminded that passive wealth building is equally all the more important. Okay, a quick plug-in here from Arcadia story where it gets even more interesting. Now she is working on tokenizing the real estate on blockchain technology, so people can own fractions of them digitally. REITs is where a company is buying fractional shares of a property and you are paying them. Imagine owning a Singapore factory on the blockchain technology. It seems so intriguing, it seems so interesting. Now, this is where traditional real estate meets Web3 via tokenized RWAs. And honestly, all of this seems really interesting to me, and it might be something which I would want to understand on a deeper level and explore.
Thank you so much, Arcadia, and thank you for spending time and sharing all this information. And maybe later on, if there is interest, viewers can talk about the Web3 space also. The art.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's a new passion, right?
Mm.
And that's very upcoming. And it's kind of coming in India also, but not too mature. But in Singapore, I would assume that it's really quite a popularity. And she's the one who's building in the space. So kudos for you. And we'll talk about it in the next video. Let me know if you want me to make a video on that.
So if this video gave you a fresh perspective on rentals, if this video gave you a deeper insight on how Singaporean market works, give this a like and let me know in the comments below what part did you find the most interesting. I really like exploring these different models. I really like exploring how people run businesses in different parts of the world. So if you would want me to cover some specific thing that you are interested in, let me know about them too. Hit the subscribe button and I'll see you on the next one.